Hey guys, this is Cody Jones with Jangus Genetics LLC, and I'm always learning what works, what doesn't work here on the farm. And one of the things that I really appreciate on this rental farm I'm at is these tire tanks. Now I did have some trouble with some when it got down, -4, about the second week of January, but I don't think it was with the tire tank because there was still water in the bottom. I think one of the covers in between the pump and the tank had been left off, and I'm seeing that if you don't have these covers on, when it gets that cold, it actually freezes the pipes in the ground. Or it didn't hurt anything, but it got cold enough it wouldn't let water go up to that tank. So that was interesting. That's my theory anyway. It went to working the next day, and I haven't found any issues. So that's the best I got on that one. And I have started carrying. Last year I had a tank I needed to get to, and it had a float in the middle. It was one of those frost free. It had a float in the middle, and then it's got the opening on each side. I've got several types, but this is a blue one, and it froze solid. It was basically like an insulated cooler full of ice. And so I ended up getting a generator and a jet heater. We call them salamander heaters, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, I carry that in the back of my truck now. So if you check out some of my other videos, you'll probably see that. The other tool I carry is a good chopping axe, maybe a shovel. There's lots of different options, pitchfork. But so what I want to share with you here on this video is I had another tank. It got down to -12 last night. No, -6, 8, I don't know, negative burr. And so anyway, this other tank over here had been good. I've been chopping. The first day I moved them down here, it was relatively warm, and then we've seen negative temperatures a few nights in a row here. So I'd chop, no more than 3 or 4 inches of ice off, and that tank's been awesome. But 2 years ago, I had some cows down here, and it was there was probably 60, 70 head in that bunch. I'd say 60,000 pounds is kind of what it looked like. And when they have shade here, which isn't too far from the water, you wouldn't think we'd have any issues. There's plenty of shade, plenty of water. But I guess when it got over 100 degrees, all those heifers went up there, and one of them jumped in. And now this is interesting, and something I'm learning and gonna remember when I build my own tire tanks. There's a brass nipple that comes up that is set in concrete, so they couldn't break the brass nipple off. I've seen some tanks where they've got PVC coming up directly out of the concrete. If that breaks, then you got to dig down into the concrete and replace that, or get pretty close to it. And so I've fixed another one where I put concrete up around it. After doing a little bit of that, I didn't have to dig down into it, but I got lucky. But anyway, try not to rely on getting lucky. But that one's got a brass fitting in it, and so I connected a piece of PVC pipe into the float, or the valve, and then the float comes off of. And so my theory is that PVC is going to break before that brass fitting does. So I put a hot wire over it and would stop that problem. But if things fail, and 2 is 1 and 1 is none, and so you put a hot wire over it and you have a fail safe there, that piece of PVC. Well, when it got this cold today, the cows had broken that float off, and that float was just hanging. That valve broke at that PVC. I don't know if the PVC failed or if it just got cold or what, which isn't a big deal, because all I got to go do is put that 1.5 inch piece of PVC back in. It's threaded both ways, not a big deal. It's 5 minutes. Problem is I got to go to the store. So right now I'm going to take the time and show you plan B. And like I said, it was negative. I think it was -8 last night, -3 or 4 the last couple nights. It's gonna be -2 tonight. But this is the first time I've chopped this tank off. I'll flip you around, I'll show you what we got, and show you why I love these tire tanks. So I'm not saying that you can't freeze these things solid, and you'll see we do have the cover on that that shutoff valve, so hopefully it's operational. But you can see the steam. So these tire tanks are black, so that helps to absorb moisture, or absorb heat, and help thaw it out a little bit. It's not going to help when it gets down in the negatives, but I've cleaned the snow off of this tank here. We've got 3 inches of snow on top of it, and then I'd say that's probably at least 6 to 7, maybe 8 inches of ice that I'm chopping through. So this here is your drain valve. There's a hole down in the ground, And I haven't decided which style I like better. This one sticks up. We've got some that don't stick up. I know some people use, you know, like they have to stick a T-handle down in them and turn a drain. These are really cool. My landlord did a great job because you can drain this whole tank in like 5, 6, 10 minutes. You can clean it out, you can drain it and work on the float, the valve, whatever you need to do. So they're really handy. I love that. That's probably a 4-inch piece of drain pipe, I think is what they are, 4-inch. I don't think that's 6-inch. Anyway, we can drain this tank really fast. It's really awesome. And that just slips down into a piece that's down there at the bottom. So if they do hit that, they can drain the tank pretty quick. So having a hot wire over the top works great. Having some wood, or I've seen, you know, some videos, people using fiberglass posts or whatever you got put over the top. Keep it from knocking that out. That's for sure important, especially if they can get in the tank. Try to prevent that with hot wire or whatever you got, and then if they can knock that over, you'll drain the tank out and they'll be thirsty. But super handy to have a drain. But we do have to chop the float out, and when we chop the float out, the water level should come on up. We're gonna let the cows over to this tank, which is great because the other tank's just on the other end of this field. And I'll get that fixed up, go get the parts today. I'm draining it and then I'm gonna fill it back up with water. I'll get the parts tonight. And it's gonna be 56 Saturday. I'll probably handle that on Saturday. So that's my plan. I wanted to show you guys, you know, I've never experienced tire tanks before renting this farm, and it's been an awesome experience. I wanted to share with you my thoughts on them. I don't know if I'd be hard pressed to build anything else. Again, take that for what it's worth. I've never built one, but I've got Ritchies at home. Seen a lot of different tanks, and the thing I really love is the volume. They're bulletproof. You know, the floats, I've had some issues with floats, and I've had some issues with, like I said, the drains being knocked off and different things, but it's all simple, easy to repair. Worst case scenario, you got to bust some concrete up, but put the brass or you know, stainless steel nipples into the concrete. That helps a tremendous amount. And you know, you learn every time you do these things, and just really love these tanks. You also got to have your escape valve for your animals over there. He's got some just a piece of, you know, a way for any kind of animal that gets up in there getting a drink to climb back out. So really cool. Love these tire tanks. I'll get it going and show you what we got. You can see we're bubbling up here. We'll make sure it shuts off. But one thing I did before I moved the cows down here, since I knew it was going to be so cold, I wanted to get them down here because there's oodles of grass down here still. It's February 20th, and we haven't touched this since August. And I'm kind of holding them in here. I'm feeding them, unrolling a little bit of hay for them just to get them through this cold patch, and also so they can dig through that snow a little easier. But they're pretty content. I mean, they're eating the hay because it fills their belly, but they're pretty happy. They're not like knocking down the fences chasing me or anything like that. But it makes me feel a little better. I got the hay here, so anyway, so there was a little bit of ice down in here, and I want to know, for some of you guys that do this a lot, this is what my landlord's put together. It works really good, but I kind of wonder if I added a piece of that 2-inch foam, cut that on, glued that right here, if that would be enough to insulate these. The other one didn't have anything on it, and it had about a 1/4 inch thick sheet of ice on top of that water, which wasn't a big deal. But I don't know if I'll end up doing that or not. I try not to turn anything when it gets this cold, and I imagine when it gets up to 30, all that'll melt down, no problem. But I try not to turn any more keys or touch any more plastics or anything like that when it gets this cold. But anyway, you can see pretty well our bubbles have stopped coming up here. Now when the cows come and drink, the cool thing about these tanks is it actually will, bringing in that warm water will help to melt some of this. Now I won't get it all, but it'll help. The other thing I've seen people do is, you know, cover the other side up with plywood, cover them with dirt. Out west they do that a lot. You know, we don't often see negative temperatures here like this in February. I was talking to my dad about it the other day. As a kid, he used to say, you know, they had to cut fences to go feed cows and different things, but we've got 4-wheel drive tractors now, so I don't know if it was his imagination or a combination of that and just the fact that we've got so much better equipment to be able to go take care of livestock now. 4-wheel drive tractors and the road crews do an awesome job. And I think that was probably a part of it, but I'd say they probably got more snow when he was a kid. But I still always keep that in the back of my mind when I'm winter planning. But anyway, you can see the float, I got it chopped out around. It's good. One thing you do not want to do, and you got to be real careful about with these tire tanks though, is you do not want to hit that with your axe or your float with your axe. That is a no-no. You know, basically the more ice you leave underneath your float will let it freeze back probably a little faster, but also it's just going to make sure it works that much better. So anyway, that could have been part of my, I don't think that was a problem with the other one that broke, but you know, if any time that float comes up and bounces against the internal workings of your valve down there, that's probably a lot of added pressure. But most of this should be stainless steel and should be all right. So you gotta do what you gotta do when it gets this cold, and hopefully most of this ice will be thawed out tomorrow and we'll be good to go. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something. If you're thinking about trying out one of these tire tanks, highly recommend them. They are awesome. So appreciate you guys. You guys have a good one.